Good morning and welcome to our farm. It's a lovely, bright and sunny day here, albeit a little bit cold because it's not quite spring yet. Now, behind me you'll see two large tanks, and in those large tanks is some milk. The milk in the tanks is stored at about 4 degrees because this is the final stop for our milk before it gets taken away by a lorry. That lorry comes every other day. It connects onto the tank here, and then the milk is taken to a plant that is close by, and that actually gets made into cheese that you guys can buy in the supermarkets or in your local shops. So let me take you to show you where all of the action happens and to see some cows. There are approximately 276 million dairy cows worldwide, and 150 of those dairy cows are milked in here. Now this is the equipment that is used to milk the cow. As you can see, each of these has got 4 clusters, we call them, and these 4 clusters will attach to the 4 teats of the cow, and then it creates a kind of vacuum that the milk is sucked through here. Now it's quite a noisy parlour when the milking is actually happening, so there aren't any cows in here right now, but I did film some footage of it happening for you earlier on.
When the cows first come into the parlour, each of their teats is dipped with a special shampoo. The shampoo contains a mixture of good bacteria which is used to strip away the bad bacteria before it is all wiped away from the teats. This is a means to try to keep our use of antibiotics low so that we do not build up antimicrobial resistance within our herd. Next, the clusters are put onto the teats and the cows will stand quietly while they are milked. Once the clusters are removed, each of the teats is sprayed with more of the good bacteria. This forms a biofilm over the teats so that they don't get dirty again. Once all of the cows are milked, it's on to washing down the parlour, first by hand and then with a special solution through all of the milking equipment with warm water.
Now I think that my next question is a little bit like a lot of those questions to do with food that we just don't think about. Like, what is the difference between raisins and sultanas? What is milk? What's actually in it? Let me tell you. There are 4 components to milk. The first one is water. The second one is lactose. The third one is butterfat. And that's where it starts to get a little bit interesting. The milk that our cows produce here is about 5% butterfat when it leaves the cow. So it's 95% fat-free. So it seems a little bit silly sometimes when people talk about full fat milk, which is actually only 4% fat, as full fat milk instead of 96% fat-free. Different species will have different levels of fat in the milk. So for example, in contrast to a cow, which only has about 5% fat in her milk, a polar bear's milk could have about 35% fat. And that's because in the climate that the polar bear lives, the young needs that extra fat in order to keep it warm. The 4th component to the milk is protein. That's also a little bit interesting because there are 2 types of protein in a cow's milk. There's whey and there's casein. The casein is the stuff that keeps the young full for a long time. So that's why a calf will actually only need to be fed every 12 hours or so, because the high casein level in the milk will keep the calf full for that long. In contrast, a mare or a female horse's milk will have high levels of whey but low levels of casein. That means that a foal needs to be fed every 2 hours instead. Because our milk is sold in order to make cheese, Our milk company is actually interested in how much butterfat and how much protein is actually in our milk. They want high levels of both because that's what's going to make for good cheese. And it would be the same if we were producing other commodities such as butter or such as yogurt. In short then, the higher the butterfat content, the higher the protein, then the more that we can get paid per percentage for that butterfat and protein content. There are other factors that affect the payment that we receive and the quality of our milk. One of those is a thing called a Bactiscan. Now, a Bactiscan is a measure of the bacteria that is found in the milk once it has left the farm. That will be affected by things like the cleanliness of the teats of the cow, the cleanliness of the clusters and the milking apparatus, and the tubes that carry it to the tank, as well as the tank itself. So we want a low Bactiscan. We also want a low somatic cell count. Now, in contrast to the Bactiscan, which looks at external factors, the somatic cell count will look at internal factors. Now, I collected this milk from the tank a little bit earlier. I've got just over 400 ml in here. I'm going to pour in 200 ml into this glass. I think it should just about fit in. I need to pour a little bit more out. Okay, I've got about 200 ml here. Now, the reason that I wanted to pour out 200 ml was so that you could see it, because I'm going to now talk about the nutrient value of a 200 ml glass of semi-skimmed milk. I'm going to pop it down. There are lots of reasons why drinking that much milk is really healthy for you, but I'm just going to pick out a few for you, okay? Let's go. Number 1, calcium. Now, a 200 ml glass of semi-skimmed milk will actually provide you with 31% of your recommended daily amount of calcium. There are loads of misconceptions surrounding calcium. People think that it is just important for babies and for little children to grow healthy bones and teeth, but that's not quite true. Also, adults need plenty of calcium in order to maintain healthy bones and teeth. As well as that, calcium is really good for your nerve function and for your muscles, and it also helps with blood clotting. Number 2, iodine. Now, a 200 ml glass of semi-skimmed milk will provide you with 41% of your recommended daily amount of iodine. And there are significant concerns that young women in the UK do not receive a sufficient amount of iodine from their diet, and milk is a really, really good way of getting that naturally. So that's one to remember. Number 3, vitamin B12. There are lots of vitamins and minerals that you can get from milk, but I've picked on this one. And the reason I've picked on this one is because vitamin B12 is a good way of supporting your immune system. And it can also help with things such as tiredness and fatigue. Last one, number 4, is protein. You can get 14% of your recommended daily amount of protein from a 200 ml glass of semi-skimmed milk. Protein is really important for your muscle growth and healthy muscle maintenance, as well as bone maintenance. That's why lots of sportsmen and women like to drink plenty of milk, because it really helps them to develop the muscles that they need to be really brilliant sportsmen and women. That's it. I'm at least convinced. I'm going to grab my glass of milk now. Cheers. Delicious.